Hey all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. Well, this one's been a long time coming. We're about to rehouse my juvenile / young adult Eresus walckenaeri, or ladybird spider, or Greek ladybird spider, or velvet spider. I avoided these guys for quite some time. Finally got one from Tom Patterson a few years ago and fell in love with the genus. I get it now. I totally get it. I did a podcast about why I avoided them. I got a lot of people upset with me, but they missed the point of the fact that I was wrong. I should have been checking these guys out a long time ago. They're incredibly popular. And considering everything I do for Tom's Big Spiders is usually for folks that are just getting into the hobby, keeping tarantulas and whatnot and care, I'd be remiss if I didn't have some of these and raise them up and tell people how I'm keeping them. So what we'll be doing today is moving this one from her sling enclosure or juvenile enclosure to her adult enclosure and try to get some shots. And I'll tell you, Billy had a hard time with this one because she didn't want to be out in the open. So I'll just give everybody a heads up. I haven't looked at the footage yet. We just shot the video, but we tried to get some good shots and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, enough of me talking. Let's take a look at Eresus walckenaeri, or the ladybird spider. All right, so we have our long-awaited rehouse of my Eresus walckenaeri, or velvet spider, or ladybird spider, or Greek velvet spider. They've got a bunch of common names. I got this one way back in January of 2022 from Tom Patterson. Unfortunately, that was the infamous video that Billy and I shot. There were a lot of spiders to unpack. It was after work. We were shooting for hours. We had all kinds of technical difficulties. It was a nightmare, and I felt bad because I never published it. But Tom Patterson from Hardcore Arachnids, great dude. I bought from him several times over the years and was really excited to receive this one here. And at that time, it was a speck. I mean, a tiny, tiny little spider. I would say between 1/6 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. And at that time, what I put it into, now this is not the exact enclosure. As you can see, it says H. simplex. It was one of these dram vials. I put a little sprig of sphagnum moss in it, a plastic leaf, because this is a species that's going to want to set up and use that to create webbing. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But it was so tiny that when I first put it into the enclosure, it was difficult to discern the spider from the dirt around it. That's how small it was. And I will tell folks that are afraid of tiny spiders, I get it. It's not afraid of them, but afraid that they're going to screw something up. It's rather daunting sometimes to see how small they are when you can't even see it. But it did great. You started to see where it would web up. Once I knew where the webbing was, then I felt more comfortable with it. Now, people are probably going to ask, what do you feed them at that size? You could feed them flightless fruit flies. I did have some on hand at that time because I was raising up some huntsman spiders as well, and they like to hunt. However, they will take pre-killed. So do know that if you have tiny pre-killed prey or you put a cricket drumstick in there, they will come up. I remember when I first got this one, I was like, what am I going to feed it? I dropped a cricket drumstick in there, came up an hour later, and it was eating. So heads up, don't freak out if you get one that you can't find small enough prey. You can always cut something up, put it in the webbing. Now, I rehoused it in November of 2023, and I'm going to point folks, if you're looking at this video trying to find information on these guys, I'm recapping some of it, but if you go back and watch that video, you'll see it in real time. I show the actual enclosure. I show it, rehouse it in here. So I would implore folks to go back and check out that one as well, so you can kind of see how it went from sling enclosure to the juvenile enclosure, and then we're going to put it in the adult enclosure in a minute. But this is one of the acrylic enclosures. It's 2 inches, about 2 inches by 2 inches by about 3 inches tall, or 5 by 5 by 7.6 centimeters. This proved to be an awesome little house for it. And one of the things you want to make sure of when setting these guys up, and we're going to talk about this when we get into, how much moisture they need, which, give you a hint, none. You want to make sure it's well ventilated. You want to make sure that nothing in here is going to hold moisture, especially if it gets, like in my house during the summer times, it can get somewhat, oh, there she is right up there. I don't know if you can see her. We're going to try to get her out. It can get very humid up here. The good news is if it gets too hot and humid, I kick on the air conditioning, which brings down the humidity a bit. But this is a spider that does not appreciate humidity, so keep that in mind. So what we're going to put it into is this right here. It's one of the Tarantula Crib Treehouse Switch Smalls. Now, notice there is a door on the front of this. I will not be using that. I expect this to get all filled with webbing here, but I like the height of it because this is a species, we're going to call it terrestrial plus, which means I've heard folks say that these guys are arboreal. They are not arboreal. That is a misnomer. Arboreal spiders are ones that come off the ground, live up in the ground in trees, bushes, whatever. They set up off the ground. This is more like a terrestrial plus, meaning you're going to give it extra height because it's going to web. So it's not so much going to be coming off the ground and living off the ground. It's going to be webbing up and living in that webbed area. So sort of like for those of you that keep tarantulas, the green bottle blue sea kinetopubescens, or P. mirinus, the OBT, or other species I say are terrestrial plus, meaning you want to give them some room down below, the substrate down below, give them room up top to be able to do their webbing. And that way they have, all the space they need to set up their own homes, basically, because this one will web extension. As you can see here, it will web the snot out of this. I've got inside, if you take a look in here, the substrate is bone dry. It's a mixture of peat, cocoa fire. That would be interesting. That's when they make scotch out. Sphagnum moss. We have some regular New Zealand sphagnum moss in there. I have some of this green moss in here, and then several fake plants. We have a fake plant there, fake plant there, fake plant there, and a little sprig, a little branch that came off basically a grapevine that we have in the yard that I trim every year and keep some of the things for enclosures. Why we're putting this in here is I think what's going to happen is the spider is probably going to end up setting up shop in one of these corners. And then it's going to use this material to kind of web up and create its webbing. And then as it webs up over the course of probably a year or so, that webbing is going to creep higher and higher and higher. This gives it anchor points. So remember, when setting these up, whether it be a juvenile enclosure, a sling enclosure, or what we have here will be our adult enclosure, you want to make sure that you give it anchor points. Now, as far as males versus females, I want to point out that females are generally that blue, gray, black color. They get to be about 1.5 inches or 3.18 centimeters. Males are the ones that have that orange on their abdomen. So the males are a bit smaller, but they're very, very pretty. I believe this one here is a female. The size of her now, she's probably, I want to say about 1 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and looking like a lady. So what we're going to do now is take a break from me talking and get this one out. And what we're going to try to do, I haven't gotten a lot of footage of this one. So we're going to try to pull out the webbing, see if we can get the spider out here. I got a plate so that we can kind of contain her. Oh my God. These magnetic tops with the metal thing I use. Oh, this stuff is strong. Holy jeez. You see her getting all nasty. Come on. You hear that? Is that coming across?
I can hear it.
Up, 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 up. There she is in there. Hold on, let me brush. I have very little footage of this one. I can get the flashlight out if you need it in a minute. The webbing is extra sticky. There we go. And she is bold. This is one thing I've seen with these guys. See her throwing the legs up, trying to drive me off. I don't know if she's coming. I know I'm not giving you a good target here. There we go. Pull her right in the butt. There we go. Those legs are out there. Nope, 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 nope. So let's try to get it. Now, how's that? Gorgeous little spiders. I love the abdomens with those tiny, it's like a stippling of white on the black abdomen that when you're looking far away, it almost looks gray, but if you look up close, you can see there's definitely little white spots all over the abdomen. There it is. Now, I know these guys look super cute, but if cornered, they can be nasty. They will not hesitate to bite. Now, it's not going to be a bad bite. Let's make that very clear, but not something you want to trifle with. So what we're probably going to do here, is she coming out? Well, let's get some shots of her there. And then what I'm going to probably do is drop this whole thing in there. This will probably be our thumbnail if you're getting a good shot.
It's zoomed in so much that any little... I'm trying to keep it still as possible.
Unzoom it down, zoom it back out, and then just get in really close. All right, we've messed with her enough. Let's get her out into the new enclosure. And I think what I'm just going to do is lift this and put it right in here. This way she can start webbing. Move this over here. So while Billy tries, this is probably incredibly difficult because, you can see her little butt. While Billy tries to get some good shots of her, some notes on this species. Number one, when I first got this, I was terrified because most spiders I keep, especially tiny ones, it is always crucial to keep them moist so that they don't dry out. And when I was doing research on these, a buddy of mine, Basin, I read that he said that you keep them bone dry. And this was against everything I learned about spiders and tarantulas. Obviously, you have to recognize when the Eresus is not a tarantula, but when you keep spiders for as long as I've done and realized most of them have similar care, it was a tough one to do, but I did keep it bone dry, and she has been perfectly fine. I've spoken to several folks over the course of the last year or so after I rehoused this one about a year or so ago that said their first attempt with Eresus, they put them into moist substrate, and then the Eresus died mysteriously, so they went and tried them on dry substrate, and then they did fine. So heads up there, I have 3 others that I'm raising, same way. They're all doing great. They get their moisture from their food, and again, this is so foreign to me because I'm one of the people, a huge proponent of putting water dishes in with tarantulas, and there are folks that are against water dishes that'll go, they don't need them, they get it from their food. This species does seem, or this genus seems to get it from their food. Now, I did have one person come forward, and just want to be very, very clear, that freaked out because they kept theirs bone dry and it died, but the majority of folks are keeping them dry and are having no problems with them. So I don't spray, I don't add any water to it, it's just the food items, and they're doing just fine. Now, as far as temperatures, again, the temperatures, I've heard this is a species that can do quite well if the temperatures get a little lower. I keep mine usually around 72 to 74 degrees in the wintertime. In the summertime, it's 80 to mid 80s. If it gets any hotter than that, I will kick on the AC, but not a species that needs extra heat or anything like that. They are amazing spiders, very slow growing, but longer lived. Now, I've read on things where they say females live 8 to 10 years. I guess that's possible, but from what I've heard from folks who have kept this species or this genus, is that 5 years for a female is normal. It could get a little longer than that, but I will say this one's already 3. She's not fully grown, so I'm guessing I've still got quite a bit of time with her. Males, you're looking at 2 to 3 years, so a decent amount of time, but I have had folks complain that because they are such expensive spiders, they're usually anywhere, at least in the US, 80 to 100, 125 bucks for teeny tiny slings. That kind of scares them off from keeping them. Now, for feeding schedule, I think a lot of these slower growing spiders, the smaller spiders, people tend to overfeed them and kind of rush them through their life cycles. For mine, as a sling, I would feed it about every other week or so. Now it's like every 3 weeks or so. I'll drop a prey item in. Keep in mind, just a heads up for people who like to keep things nice and clean. I don't know if you can see it from in there. Oh, look at his little butt. They don't throw out their boluses. They suck the prey completely dry, and then they take the desiccated carcasses and they work them into the webbing. And this can be frustrating for folks who want to keep things clean, because if you look at the webbing, it will be filled with little dry husks of everything they're eating. That's totally fine. I've had people contact me, how do I get these out of here? I don't bother trying to take them out. And because things are dry, it's not like you have to worry about mold or anything like that. What am I missing here? Now, this is going to be its adult enclosure. I don't think we'll end up, if it gets to be about an inch or so, I don't think we'll put it in anything bigger, but we'll see what happens. If she gets big enough, maybe we put her in something else. Now, for folks who don't want to spend the money, I totally get it. Do know there are other options out there that are much less expensive. You have the old Amac boxes. This one here is one set up for something else. I think I got this one I bought. I got something from a pet store. That was from a pet store. But the one thing you'd want to do with the Amac box is make sure you put holes. I would probably put holes down here, holes up here as well, because you want that airflow. You don't want this to become stagnant. But something like this would work perfectly fine. And these are probably about, what, $2 or so, $2.50. And then the other thing you could keep it in is one of these Sterilite containers here. This is just one I haven't cleaned out yet that I'd rehouse something in. But you see it offers a decent amount of height. They're opaque. They're not as pretty. And I get it. A lot of folks that are buying these want something to show them off. So I completely understand that. But if you want something that'll be just as good for the spider, for its health, for it to be able to grow and do its webbing, this would work great. You're just not going to obviously be able to see through it as well. And this one's a dirty one, so don't judge me on that, but I haven't cleaned it out yet. But there's a lot of different options out there that you could use for them. I don't want folks to think this is exactly what you have to use. I had one of these on hand. I've been trying to figure out what to put in it. And when I looked at it and looked at the spider and what I wanted to do, this is perfect. And they do have the option of getting these little tops here, which I'm not going to use. But should this spider go ahead and web and it gets all the way up in here, it might be nice to drop this on to give me a little extra space to work. But for the time being, we're just going to use this top. See, whoop, magnets. And of course, I have it upside down. It's the thing with the magnet ones. It drives me nuts. I'm always putting them on the wrong way. Just like that. So there she is. Again, if you want to see images of what I had her in as a sling, how tiny she was as a sling, or as a juvenile, I think when we moved her as a juvenile, she was about a ½ inch or 1.27 centimeters. I would encourage you to go ahead and check out the video. I'm going to put it at the end of this one, and I will remind everybody in my outro that they can check that out. But definitely a fan of these. These are spiders I ignored for quite some time because they were super popular. They were popping up everywhere. Everybody was talking about them. There was a lot of anthropomorphization of them, which kind of drives me nuts sometimes, where people treat them like they're humans and they were putting in these really ornate kind of playful type enclosures. And it just wasn't my thing. I'm not judging people. You do what you want to do with your spider, but it didn't scream, Tom, you need to keep this. However, after getting this one, like I said, I have 3 more. I absolutely adore them. I think they're a great gateway spider for somebody who's just looking to get into arachnids because they tend to be smaller and not as intimidating. Quite frankly, many folks would consider them to be cute, which makes it a lot easier to keep them for folks who might be still a little scared of our 8-legged friends. So there we go. Eresus walckenaeri, velvet spider, a ladybird spider. I will definitely keep folks updated. Hopefully she webs this whole thing up and I have something to share in a few months. All right, so again, for those of you who want to see some images of what this spider looked like when I first got it, or if you want to see when I rehoused it into the little enclosure we just took it out of, I would implore you to check out the video. I'm going to put it down in here in a moment that you can see exactly what I did with it. One of the things I love doing when I do husbandry videos is taking my time to put one together and showing not only what did I have it as a sling, what did I have it as a juvenile? But here it is as a healthy adult as we put it into its adult enclosure. So that way you can have confidence that I raised this thing all the way up. What drives me nuts is when you're looking for information on spiders, you pull up somebody that just picked this thing up. They did a little research. They drop it in something. They go, this is how you care for it. Well, you don't know yet. You got to give it some time and see how it does. You got to grow these things up. So we'll be able to, anybody that's interested can go back, watch that video, see when I got it, what I put it into, what I put it into next, and then you can watch this video and see what it's in now. And of course, I'll keep people updated as time goes on, and this one hopefully settles in. I'm hoping we get a lot of webbing up there. It looks like she's about maybe an inch total, supposedly get to be an 1.5 inches or so. So it looks like I still have some time with her. And again, the lifespans on these guys, I know it says, 8 to 10 years out there. Is that possible? Sure. I'm guessing that if you don't feed them too much, you kind of stretch out their feedings. Maybe if it's a little cooler, they can live longer. But generally speaking, these are a spider that you can expect 5 to 6 years out of. But we shall see. Maybe I'll prove that wrong. Maybe this one will live 8, 9, 10 years. And then I can turn back and go, yep, you're right. You're going to have a long-lived spider. So that will do it for this one. As always, if you like enough to subscribe, very much appreciate. Click the little circle up in there, right in here. And then I'm going to put the old Eresus video down in here, probably something else in there. You take the time to comment. I'll take the time to respond. Just know it can take me a little while because I tend to get busy and get a lot of comments. Guys, as always, stay safe. Happy Easter, and we'll catch you all next time.